Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order. I have one change to the agenda. We have an amendment, consent agenda 2B, employment information only, Parkside School Secretary Carissa Krieger. So I have item B, verification of public notice and approval of the revised agenda.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Nicole, second by Jeanette. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item C, a moment of silence to reflect on the business at hand. Item D, the Watoma Area School District Strategic Plan.
Mission statement, creative housing foundation for the success of our children.
Strategic directions, business and community involvement through internships, job shadowing, and mentorship.
Develop marketing of the district and community through branding.
Improve work and people skills.
Develop parental contacts promoting school involvement.
Build productive relationships with the medical field to increase and support open lines of communication to support students with mental health issues.
Item E, recognition of persons wishing to address the board.
Nobody.
We have nobody on the list. Moving along. Item F, administrative reports. Tom, anything to add?
Sure, just a couple of things with everything taking place. One is just if you guys get questions. Obviously, we take the wind chill very seriously in the state of Wisconsin. Very dangerous. As far as closing school, we always look at wind chill warning when there's a wind chill warning, not an advisory. Just a reminder, our buses are in a garage, so they're warm when they come out. If one were to break down, we could definitely be there within 30 minutes to pick kids up. Obviously, the schools are open and ready. And if a parent were to call their child in situations like this, we're not going to punish them with attendance if they were to call them in. So just so that's out there. Secondly, with all the mask stuff going on with the legislature and then the governor, just a reminder that as a board, you voted to continue masks because the Washington County Health Department said for schools to be open, we feel like facial coverings need to take place. So even if this all falls apart at the state level, we're still going to have a mask mandate in schools until the health department tells us differently. And so that, and also we have that new PPE policy in place. And so that means like all athletic events, extracurricular events for now. We're not sure about outdoor extracurricular events when the spring comes along. We're hoping maybe there'll be a little bit of give and take. But I know during football, I think the fans had to wear them in the stands during football. So we're hoping maybe in the spring that shakes loose a little bit. But right now we're still requiring them and moving forward because, again, we feel very fortunate that we're still in school. We feel like this is one way to make that happen. Don't know if you saw the data or not, but UW Health said today they've had one flu case this year. Last year at this time there were 971. So, I think we can attribute that to social distancing, washing our hands, and probably wearing facial coverings. So, thank you.
Just quick on the wind chill. Any issues with buses today?
No issues at all.
Doug, anything?
The sign.
Okay. Adam?
I put it in my report, we did host both boys and girls seating meetings for basketball, and we did earn, we will be hosting girls tomorrow and boys next Tuesday. And we did have one wrestler make third at sectional, but they did not, due to COVID, take the third place this year. So that was in my report, but I thought I'd update you on the end stages of the winter season.
Okay, thank you. Jewel?
Nope.
Anything to add? Caitlin, anything to add?
Not the same.
Okay. Sierra? Would like to say anything? Cindy would like to say anything? Did everybody? Oh, sorry, Jim.
Yeah, no, I just talking with Jeff. Kudos to Adam for hosting our home wrestling meeting last week. Took a load off of me. I couldn't be in 5 places at the same time, so I really appreciated that, Adam. Thank you so much.
Okay, if I didn't forget anybody, board members, anything to add? Student council.
Okay. Some of our accomplishments on January 7th, student council members met to brainstorm ideas for the overall theme of Cancellation dress code for the fall homecoming. In November, Mrs. Williams created a forum for members to submit ideas. That list was posted, and we decided as a group to brainstorm more ideas. We just did that at a regular meeting. Members formed small groups to do so, and ideas were presented. We're going to be meeting again later this month to narrow down the choices and pick one final theme. drive was canceled due to a scheduling change on the community blood center's behalf. Mrs. Waco is working with the manager to reschedule, and our homecoming 2021 planning is September 20th through 20th.
Okay, thank you. Item G, consent agenda. We have the minutes of the January 11th monthly meeting.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Adam, second by Brian. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item 2, staffing. We have 2A, 1 through 4, and B, 1 through 3. Unless there's a reason to take one or more of these out individually, I would entertain a motion to take them together.
I'll make a motion to approve items 2A, 1 through 4, and B, 1 through 3.
I'll second it.
Motion by Nicole and second by Jeanette. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item H, action items, business and finance. 1A, approve the January 2021 treasurer's report.
I make a motion to approve the treasurer's report as printed.
Second.
Motion by Karen, second by Brian. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item B, approve vouchers and payroll.
I make a motion to approve the vouchers and payroll as printed.
Second.
Motion by Karen, second by Adam. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item 1C, approve the auditor contract for fiscal year 21 through 23.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Adam, second by Brian. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item 1D, approve the hourly rate of pay for summer school teachers. Tom?
Yeah, so Cindy had received some research on the hourly pay of summer school teachers. Looked like we were sort of towards the bottom, so we gathered more data through CISA 5, and we were at the bottom. And so the $25 an hour rate is the mean, median, and mode of what we saw with the data we have. So we're making the recommendation that we move summer school hourly pay rate for summer school teachers to $25 per hour.
Have we ever looked at the costing would be for prorating them based on their salary and what that would cost us?
No, we haven't. Part of it is because we don't always just use our own teachers.
Right.
And then the other thing was it just seems like it's an easier thing to budget. It's not, I mean, I'm not looking for the easy way out, but people understand where they're at. If there's a rate. One thing we do want to do is make this change now to 25 and then put the CPI rate that we're using for the next school year onto that each year. So we'll increase incrementally. Do you see that in other schools?
Yes, well, PAC is doing it, and so I'm just wondering if we could inquire to see, like, that's a good point you bring up, though, if they're not part of the district, where would you start them? Is there something where you could inquire to see what they do if that comes to be a situation, just so we can kind of get a costing? Because that is competition for us, you know, of why some people maybe want to come this way, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I would say out of all the data we saw, there was, and maybe it wasn't a fact, there was only one other school that did base wage hourly rates up there. So it wasn't like if you were making $60,000, you didn't get your hourly rate, but you got whatever the base teacher got hourly. But that was only, besides that, that was only one, otherwise they were making sort of a general.
I just like to see what it looks like, and like, give a good point, though, what do you do if they're not from your district?
You could cost it out, but
Yeah.
for future, you know, move forward with this for now and then look down the road.
I move to approve.
I'll second it.
Motion by Adam and second by Nicole. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item E, approve the wage increase for summer school paraprofessionals.
So this just encompasses people who are currently paraprofessionals in the district, not college or high school students. That would be, they would still stay at $10 per hour. But similar, it's a little easier to do this because of how the wages are laid out for paraprofessionals. The base wage for paraprofessionals in our district is like $14.20. Is that correct, Cindy?
Yeah.
14. So we're just looking at $14 per hour, and then again we do CPI from this point forward.
I'll make a motion to approve the wage increase for summer school paraprofessionals.
Second.
Motion by Nicole, second by Brian. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item H2, policy 2A, approved, revised, and/or new policies for first consideration.
So this is, again, first time around. I did go through these with Steve LaValliere, and I do make some decision points in here. And again, if there's things that you see that seem that you're interested in, by all means. I will also let you know that when we approve these policies for second consideration, there's always a list of policies that just have technical changes to them, like something was misspelled or the date needs to be changed. Those, you don't see those, they just get done, just so you're aware of that, because they're really just technical changes. I would say one that I feel is sort of controversial, and it's only controversial because it's of past history, is the head lice, not headlights, but head lice policy, which is 8451. I do have a document if you're interested in reading it from the CDC. The CDC and the American Association of Pediatrics and the Department of Health, they really have taken the stigma of head lice away, and it's not a communicable disease. It really takes a lot to spread it from one place to the other. There's a lot of things that have happened to children over time because of head lice, like heads being shaved, too much medication on the head. So the policy is, I would say it's more relaxed than it has been. And then the whole no-knit thing, they have a philosophy, a scientific philosophy on the no-knit. So that is one where the kid doesn't have to be rushed out right away, and they don't have to be ostracized at the same level. And we were going to get to this, I told Ross, we're going to bring this policy last winter, and then COVID hit, and I told Carrie, I think we got bigger fish to fry than head lice. So we put this on the shelf for now, but this is bringing it back into the mix. So to me, that's only one just because of tradition and how everybody was scared of head lice. And they're saying, listen, people need to take a breath and calm down. It's not as extensive. There's some good research here from the CDC if you would like to read it. That's the only one that I thought that was sort of out of the Any others that you had that you were thoughts or concerns about? And again, this is just first consideration.
Is there one in there that said something about we should have a physician?
Physician care, you say?
Yeah. I'm trying to find it here.
There is one that puts school nurse into the language. That one's policy 0100, definition of school nurse and school official. But nothing.
You're supposed to have a doctor, appointed a doctor or something?
I didn't see that.
We'll have to start reading again.
Yeah, we'll have another chance.
Yeah, if you want to bring it back next time.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you questions.
Encourage everybody to take a hard look at it and see if there's anything else before we go through second consideration.
I'll make a motion to approve the first consideration.
I'll second it.
Motion by Adam, second by Jeanette. Further discussion at this point? All those in favor? Opposed? Approve first consideration. 2B, approve systems and network specialist job description, first consideration. Eric?
Yeah. So I had a meeting with our current employee Brandon about this, and he brought to my attention earlier in the year that he's been doing a lot more than his original job title actually encased since Melissa was gone, and he had been doing it the entirety and then as he went through. And some of the big things that you can see in the updated job description is quite a few that he had been taking on. I was able to take on my own from what Melissa was doing, but I'll always stand pat to what I've said to others. A lot of people just didn't know how much Melissa was doing. So after going through this with Brandon, also looking at other positions within districts in the central Wisconsin area, this is what we kind of came up with what he was doing and what I thought the position title should be, and worked with Tom and Cindy with that as well.
No change to the salary or at all?
We're going to have that discussion later. Thank you, that's a good question. We're going to do some comparison to Cameron Corner, which we spend money on now as far as outside sourcing.
And so at this point, it's a change to the job description of this discussion. Later.
I'll move to approve the first consideration.
I'll second it.
Motion by Adam, second by Nicole. Any further discussion at this point? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? approved for first consideration. 2C, approve the cancellation of February 2021 parent-teacher conferences.
So I'll just read my rationale because I don't know if I can say anything other than I wrote. We want to continue to look at increasing instructional time for students. We've looked at potentially having parent-teacher conferences on the Wednesday prior to the date. However, that is Ash Wednesday. So again, we have made a commitment in the past to community religious organizations about doing things on Wednesday. We looked at potentially pushing it ahead to the following Wednesday. Then we started discussing the amount of communication that's going on currently with everything that's taking place. There really is no stone unturned. So we're recommending the board cancel the February 18th and 19th, the AM, PM on the 18th, AM on the 19th parent-teacher conferences. They're not required by state statute or per board policy. They are alluded to in reporting student progress, which is policy 5420, and then 8210 on the school calendar, obviously they're on there. Each school would still collect third quarter progress grades and send a physical report out to families, and teachers would still reach out to parents that were not in constant communication with currently, or the parents could also set up phone conference or virtual meetings if they need to speak with the teacher regarding any concerns. So at this time we're recommending canceling, and if you were to cancel it, then I would communicate that out to families effective tomorrow.
And the plan is to return to this at some point, right? This is not something that's not
Correct.
a trend.
They're in the calendar for next year. Yeah. And let's hope they're in person.
Makes sense. I'll make a motion to approve the cancellation of the February 2021 parent-teacher conferences.
Second. Motion by Nicole, second by Brian. All those in favor?
Aye.
Just for the benefit of anybody that, if they're watching this and would be concerned, I worked with Mrs. Bremer to set up some individual conferences with some of those teachers recently, and it flew right through. It was very easy to do. So if anybody does have some individual concerns about it, if they reach out to any of the administrators, I'm sure they'll be just as helpful.
All those opposed? Motion carried. Item D, review and approve the Tacoma Area School District instructional model. This is something we've had on the agenda here the past several monthly meetings, and kind of here to discuss and decide where we're going with this.
So if you want to look at the data that I handed out, and I did give a copy to everyone who's here. The very first page, again, is weekly quarantine numbers. Quarantining has taken a different form recently. Kids are not quarantined as long. Again, if a student is not feeling well, Nurse Carrie has the opportunity to swab and do an antigen test. And if they are negative, then they get back to school as soon as they start feeling better. If their symptoms get worse, then she encourages them to go and get the PCR test. But otherwise, we're trying to get them back into the school as soon as possible. If someone is a close contact and they do not reside with the active case, after 7 days, they can be swabbed. And if they're negative, they can come back on the 8th day. If they're having symptoms at that time, then they would stay out the entire 14 days, or if they tested positive, obviously they would stay home. We are looking at, just so for your own benefit, we're also looking at after spring break, because of how things have started turning in the correct direction. If a student is ill and his siblings, and it has not tested positive, and his siblings are not ill, they will be able to continue to come to school. At this time, if a sibling is ill, all the siblings go home. All right, so we're looking at potentially making that change. We're also, again, looking at changing the symptoms back to one symptom would be a verification, and that would be like vomiting, diarrhea, things that you normally would go home for, fever, and believe it or not, 100% of the time, loss of taste, loss of smell is 100% COVID. Believe it or not, I know you all believe that because that's what you hear. So once we hear that, I mean, we know it's a done deal. We still obviously test them. So there's these opportunities for students to be tested, and we're trying to free things up a little bit again after spring break. So as you can see, quarantine numbers have really stabilized with students, and with staff they've actually gone down as we've gone over time. Second page again is incidences over time, total quarantine incidences. Now, obviously, a big jump from January to February. not as big a jump from December to January because again, we had Christmas vacation in there, so that's why the jump is small. January to February, the jump is big. I want you to think about this, and I have to remind myself this on a daily basis. Think about before COVID when kids were sick. How many kids were sick out of school every day? Okay, anytime a kid is sick, they're considered quarantined. All right? So these are any child who they call in and say the child is ill, or the child comes to school, they have to go home ill. And then all their siblings have to go home because they're ill. Those all count as quarantine numbers. If you would look back in the past at flu numbers, this time of year, I just remember being at a high school, 30 to 40 kids being out on a daily basis. So these numbers I actually believe are low compared to past numbers of children being ill, especially when we're sending their siblings home who aren't ill at the same rate. So just please keep that in mind. Staff numbers, again, you can see have slowed down as far as quarantine over the month. 2 at Red Granite, 2 at Riverview, 4 at Parkside, 2 at the high school, and none at the district level. So the staff quarantine has really slowed down over time. Historically, cases per historic cases per location. Again, pretty much 1 month out from January. 9 more student active cases, and for staff, 2 active staff cases. Adam had asked me to gather this information. It's very easy to gather. We had a new policy where somebody asked me to gather something together. Make sure that's not too difficult. So this was not difficult to gather. So there are 24,443 residents of Waukegan County. As of this morning, there were 2,000 in Waukegan County. 2,000 people had recovered from COVID. So it's 8.2% of the county. So you would say that potential group could have some immunity. And then you have vaccines administered, and again, that's just at least 1, so not the full regimen. 2,516 or 10.2. So about 18.4% of our population probably could determine they have some immunity within the county. Now again, we all know if you follow the data, you could probably do a multiplier on that for people who had COVID who never went and got tested, or vice versa. But I don't know what that number is. That's just conjecture on my part, but I think it's a safe conjecture. And then you have the last document, which are virtual numbers by grade level up to today. So I sort of broke this down between last month and this month. And so you look at January numbers of students. So Red Granite, they had 13 that were virtual, full-time virtual. They're down to 9. That took them from 12% of the population down to 8%. Riverview, 50 to 32, took them from 14.44 to 9.16. Parkside, 58 to 43, 14 down to 10. High school, 84 to 68, 21.4 down to 17. Last time we got together, if you would have looked at the total percentage of full-time virtual, it's 15%. We are now down to 11%. So that means 89% of our students are in the building. Okay, so almost 90%.
And just to be clear, these numbers are the people that are elected full-time virtual, not people that are forcibly virtual during this time frame for 10 days, whatever.
Correct. Yeah, these are people who chose to be full-time virtual. They are not quarantined though, not by us.
With the number, obviously the number is significantly higher at the high school. Is that, I would assume that can be explained somewhat by maybe some seniors that have, I don't want to say moved on because they're doing their part, but are not in the building and they're working more. I don't expect you to quantify that for us, but is there a substantial?
Doug, do you know now? I mean, that is a true statement. Do you know any number on that at all, like the senior class? How many are taking like a couple of courses and then doing work study?
I do not.
Okay.
I know there's a percentage of them. I know that they've been our highest number throughout the entire year.
I think, in my opinion, you have two groups here. The teachers have done an amazing job of getting us through. We're about 20 weeks into the school year. The parents have been very patient. The families have been very patient as we've gone through this. I think we talked beginning of the school year. I remember talking to Adam, and we were sort of talking about when would we be full-time virtual with everybody, and that never occurred. And barring some disaster, I don't think it's going to occur. And so I'm very proud of how everybody's handled this, and they've been very patient. But if you're looking for a recommendation, and maybe you are, maybe you're not.
We are.
Okay, so, you know, I have to, as an educator and as someone who runs this district, I have to recommend returning to 5 days per week. I would make the recommendation to do it after spring break and get a clean start on that second week of March. That gives them 3 Wednesdays, and by them I mean the teachers, 3 Wednesdays to do some preparation for that March date. I know Nicole had brought up potentially early release, late start. We did some data collection on that. Unfortunately, we have 9 bus drivers who have other jobs during the day, and even though they're not opposed to helping out, to commit to that many Wednesdays, to, you know, it's different when we have a late start because of snow, or if it's here or there, but to have that consecutively, it does hurt their income. They drive for us on both sides, and then they do something in the middle. We can't afford to lose drivers, especially 9 drivers. And so right now that wouldn't work. But I know Nicole also mentioned, we do have April 5th, which is a Monday, a full day. Okay, so that's 8 hours. That's the Monday after Easter. Kids don't come back, but the teachers were already planning to come back on that day. And then I know she had mentioned maybe throwing in a Wednesday in May. And so I thought maybe a May 5th Wednesday, again, gives you another full day. So that's really, if you look at April 5th and you look at May 5th, that's getting 4 early release days in one day, because early release would be 2 hours times 4. And so if you had the 3 Wednesdays leading up to spring break, you had April 5th, you had May 5th to try to get some preparation and some planning done ahead of time. Just some other data for you to know is that, this isn't hard and fast data, but I think I've heard it from a couple of principals. Only about 1/3 of the quarantine kids actually keep up on their work while they're quarantined. So to devote a lot of time to the quarantine students when they're not here, it's on Schoology. So the quarantine students can be told, your work is on Schoology. All right, so they can go there. It's there if they want to have access to it. Otherwise, they're getting caught up on their way back. They're not gone for a long period of time. Like it's not the 14-day deal anymore for the most part. And then the students who are full-time virtual, you know, we're not abandoning those students, but I would say right now our primary focus is on almost the 90% of the kids that are in school. And the teachers can either deliver their instruction synchronously or asynchronous. It's not going to be both, unless the teacher chooses to do that, but it will not be mandatory for them to do both. And I guess I just want the board to understand and acknowledge that we're going to do our best we can to still service those full-time virtual kids, but our primary focus, like we said at the beginning of the school year, is going to be on the students who are in the building, which is almost 90%. Again, that would be communicated by me.
So just to pause, the teachers will have the option then, if their classroom is going to be synchronous or not, and they'll communicate that to their virtual students?
Yep. So this is how you'll be able to get access to my information.
Sure.
Now, if they choose to do synchronous and then also load it, then that's on their time and they're doing it. But if they can choose one model or the other based on comfort, then that's what they choose.
And we have everything in place that we need for them to do synchronous?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Eric has the ability, he's offered up cameras to go out. So he has cameras that we go out. Eric, I'll let you speak for yourself.
I have cameras that I put out in my tech news that if somebody wants cameras, I have them available. We have Chromebooks that have cameras. All the teachers have Chromebooks with camera and microphone. We have snowballs, which are Omni microphones, which catches the sound in the background or in the front. They can choose which one. I still have almost 15, 17 cameras myself. I'm still exploring right now. I'm getting a camera sent in for mostly, I would say, more permanent base for as we move forward. And same with microphones, so we'll have some of those as well. So realistically, they have option of their Chromebook. They have option if I have a camera available, I have a microphone available. And then here in the near future, another camera option as well. So I have stuff ready and available, but I'm just not going to keep dropping it off. I mean, I put it out there.
Well, I think now, once we make this decision, they'll have to decide and visit with you. And you'd have time to implement all of that prior to,
yeah, I mean, well, I just sat in a 5th grade classroom the other day that they want to focus it on the science projects that they have, and we set up a Chromebook, we set up the camera. I sat in there for 30 minutes, we went over how it can show, and it's a nice view of the board. It picks up the sound. He's able to move it, able to show the science experiments happening. It worked really good, and he actually started posting those in his classroom. So, and the science group here in the high school has been doing that already for quite a bit. So, and then other school teacher or other teachers in the other buildings have been doing the same, so, again, and if they choose to record it after school or do something different on their own time, I mean, I don't think that's a problem.
No.
But I mean, like, I feel like we have a lot available, especially considering they all do have Chromebooks as well. And we do have new Chromebooks as well for some of the staff as well, so if some of that breaks. So. Other questions for me on that?
So when it comes to, we're encouraging more synchronous learning, but we're encouraging for the virtual kids. And it's the teacher's option if they want to upload videos, but we're really encouraging the parents. Are we going to send a common message like you said? How are we going to keep track of those kids are not logging in, the teacher wants to be synchronous when it comes to the principals and so forth? Like, how are we going to?
I think there's got to be discussions, one, on a case-by-case basis, like, okay, I mean, you're right, I mean, if parents aren't home and the kid doesn't have good network connection, that synchronous probably is not going to work for that family, so what are options?
Right.
And you're right, I mean, we have to have those discussions.
And it is, we're looking way less. I mean, the Wednesdays really were created first for the teachers, to support the teachers because they were taking on a lot of trying to do asynchronous, and uploading videos and so forth. And so now we're taking that off of the teacher's plate of that being an option to do if we have wonderful technology available. I support exactly what you're saying with 89% of our kids available on a Wednesday. It's hard for me to say, let's stay closed on Wednesdays for 89% of the kids that could be in school. So I support your decision.
Thank you. And let's think back to the beginning again. At one point in time, we had some schools that were over 30% full-time virtual. At the bare minimum, I think we had schools at 25% full-time virtual. And let's look at October 5th on the front of your document there. There were 218 kids that were quarantined. So that was the time. That's the time we went hybrid. That's the time we continued with the Wednesdays. And then as you can see the numbers slowly go down as we brought back here. We have a lot of strategies in place in order to try to keep kids in school and help families. Families are very appreciative that we can test their kids and we can get them back. They're very supportive of Nurse Carrie when she does that. So I think we have a lot of positive things in place to do that. I know this isn't going to be, it's not just like me saying, hey, we're bringing everybody back and it's all going to work. I mean, there's going to be discussions and conversations, and there'll probably be some full-time virtual parents that are going to be frustrated that they're not going to get the same level of attention that they did now. But again, and second week of March on, we're starting that push to next fall. We're coming back full-time, and we're not going to have virtual. So we're ending on what it's like to be full-time. Our bus routes are probably going to start to become a little more condensed too, because we don't have a ton of bus drivers, and so all these little things are going to start coming into play. Where we're going to try to get back to as close to normal as we can.
I'll make a motion, and we've had further discussion then, but I'll put the motion out there that we return to a 5-day instructional model with all the caveats that Tom has mentioned.
I'll second it.
Is that after spring break?
Following spring break, yes.
Okay, motion by Adam and a second by Nicole. And then continuing discussion. I guess just to clarify the motion, you're talking about having the 2 days for the teachers to have off the April 5th through May 5th.
Yeah, again, with all the
And April 5th,
Tom had.
that was already done.
Yeah, that was
so
done.
that's good. So this would just be the May 5th edition.
Well, I mean, I think back when we went to hybrid, we didn't have a crystal ball of how this thing was going to look and where we were going to be sitting here in early February. But what we did have, and we've talked about it a number of times in our meetings, is we had a tremendous staff from the district office to admin and especially the teachers. And I think it's important, I feel, that the teachers understand how appreciative we are as a board for just the massive amount of flexibility, effort, and passion that's been given really from day one. And I know you haven't been afraid to share your opinions on where you would hope to see this go between now and the end of the year. And again, I just, from myself and speaking for myself, it's obvious that we have a tremendous amount of people who care. And you listen to the horror stories that have happened in a lot of other districts. And it starts with the team that's been assembled and motivated and people who care. So I just think from my standpoint, I'm sure there's a lot of other people in the room here that echo that. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts. We're trying to do the right thing for the kids going forward after spring break. And that could change, right? Looking at the numbers, it looks like the trends are correct. And I think it's time, I agree with Tom, that it's time that we continue to get these kids back in 5 days a week. And before we know it, we'll be in May and we'll be in summer and hopefully back to normal. So, any other comments? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item I, board governance discussion only, legislative update. Our man with the plan is not with us tonight.
Just a couple of good things I found interesting is that I attended that delegate assembly, virtual delegate assembly, and the delegate assembly voted to recommend, which I don't see our legislature doing, is a sales tax that would be for schools only. I can't see that happening. Have you heard anything more on that? But that,
No, I haven't. I've heard in the past, but I've never seen it.
I can't imagine that happening. The other thing is for the first time ever, the delegate assembly made a motion recommending the removal of all Native American mascot representation throughout the state. So, kind of a swinging position from past years.
I know there's a lot of people who will not get involved in that. Other districts say it's not our business. I don't know if you heard that.
Yeah, well, yeah. There was a lot of discussion leading to that, but the vote was overwhelming. I mean,
Oh, that's new. I mean,
that was new compared to past years, from my understanding. Not that it affects us, I just thought it was.
I think Ross just legislated at the federal government level again with ESSERS 2 coming out. So that's we had ESSERS 1, back in March. Now ESSERS 2 has come out, which is again a sum of money to assist with technology, ventilation, loss of learning, all those things. So we'll start planning for that. So you'll see some projects coming forward, maybe some personnel coming forward. There's a discussion with the next, I guess it'd be ESSERS 3, that there could be even more funds coming forward. So again, we'll continue to examine those funds, use them wisely to better our school district. So as Eric talked about, cameras, microphones, our ultimate goal would be that there would be a camera in every classroom. There'll be a microphone in every classroom so that we ever have to go synchronous again. It will already be set up for it, and it'll be just simultaneous going virtual, and we have everything set up. Let's hope that never happens, but we're prepared. We will be prepared for that if it does occur, and that's what that money is supposed to be for, is getting ready for potential virtual education in the future. So.
And I agree completely that we should be as aggressive as possible, obviously within the guidelines. But if we feel there's a chance to use those funds for projects that are identified that way, we definitely should do that.
Yep.
Right. Okay, if nothing else, item 2, the projects. 2A, distribution of information about the Parkside upper and lower gymnasium HVAC upgrade.
So again, then this would be potentially a project that would qualify for that. And again, that's just a movement of air, ventilation in the Parkside gym. Parkside gym has always had heating. They have the very minor ceiling fans in the upper gym. The heating is never dispersed well. The upper gym is about 1,000 degrees. And then there is no cooling in that gym. And again, the air in and out is not good either. So we did, and I believe you have them, received some bids from Ron's Refrigeration and Gartman Mechanical, which are 2 companies that we work with frequently. They've done work on our other buildings. Also EC&D. EC&D would do the controls, no matter who got the bid between Ron's or Gartman. They do our control work, just so you're aware of that. The one thing I was interesting about Ron's is the pair fans. And they're not ceiling fans, but they literally look like pairs for the ceiling. But they disperse the air more effectively for large areas. I had never heard of them before, so I looked them up, and they're used in large areas. So he put in a bid for those. So this again ultimately would be making our heating more energy efficient, involving cooling, which will help protect our floor. Also looking at the amount of outside air coming into that area for ventilation. and then obviously the controls that go with that. So Wayne and I are going to re-examine them again. We will come back to finance in March to give a recommendation to bring to you guys. But I wanted you to have it so you could read through it to know.
So of our first ESSER funds, do we go through that all for the first round?
We're pretty close.
Pretty close.
Real close.
Okay.
So it's technology,
Yep.
transportation, substitute teachers, and there'll still be more of that. The first round of ESSER funds was $300,000, whatever your title funds are. That was a same equivalent as title funds. The second round of ESSERs is 3 times your title funds. Actually, I'm sorry, 4 times your title funds, which is about $1.2 million. And the rumor is that the next round of ESSER funds is 2.5 of that times that. So that could be right around $3 million. So like I said, we're going to have some personnel type things that we're interested in. ESSERs 2, you have until September 30th of 2023. ESSERs, the next ESSERs, if it does occur, would be 2024. The ESSERs we spent was 2022, September 30th. So again, I think there'll be a presentation to you in March from Parkside and Red Granite, and then we're also looking at as a curricular team and an admin team of some other loss of learning areas that we could benefit with this money. And potentially paying salaries for a few years, and then we'd have to see where the positions work, what we wanted, and if we do, we'll have to continue out of our budget, but it allows us to try to close some gaps.
Okay, any comments there? Item J, board suggested future agenda items for the monthly meeting on March 8th. Okay, if you have something between now and then, please advise. If not, item K, adjourn to closed executive session for a session before the governmental body pursuant to the exceptions for closed sessions under section 19.851C, Wisconsin statutes for considering the employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. Roll call?
Karen, yes.
Yes.
Ross Peterson.
Yes.
Nicole Lear.
Yes.
Matt Jones. Yes. Barry Masterson.
Yes.
Ryan.
Yes.
Okay, so we're adjourned. Just give a couple minutes. Meet back here on the left.